Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. And Jack left town.
Shut your face up!
Welcome back, Adrenalheads. I'm Mark.
And I'm Damian.
And I'm Jayme.
And, well, we're going to be completing a Sam Raimi Evil Dead trilogy with this because Damian watched it in the 80s, so he's already covered the first Evil Dead movie with Jayme, the second Evil Dead movie with Jayme, and now we're all covering The Army of Darkness from 1992
Yay.
with Jayme,
Yay.
Damian, and myself. So this is going to be fun.
Yes, it will.
I'm glad that Damian asked me to do this. I love this film too, as well as Damian and Jayme. So, Damian, why don't you give us the synopsis for Army of Darkness 1992?
Sure, I'll do that. All right. Starting off with the synopsis here. Ash is transported with his car to 1300 AD, where he is captured by Lord Arthur and turned slave with Duke Henry the Red and a couple of his men. When Ash is thrown into a pit, he defeats two monsters and wins respect of Arthur's army and vassals. The wise man points Ash as the chosen one that will retrieve the Necronomicon, but Ash is only interested in returning home. When he learns that the only way to return to his time is using the Necronomicon, Ash decides to travel to the unholy land of the Deadites. The wise man advises that he must say the words Klaatu Barada Niktu to safely get the evil book. However, Ash forgets the last word, and an army of the dead resurrects to attack Arthur's fortress and recover the Necronomicon. The battle between the living and the dead is about to start, and the support of Henry the Red is the only way to help Ash and Arthur to defeat the Army of Darkness. And that is courtesy of Claudio Carvalho, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, from IMDb.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. A little bit in depth.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Which is pretty cool.
I
but
would
it
say
gives
the
an
car
idea.
helped as well, a little bit.
Just a touch.
Oh, definitely. Because, yeah, the car is always some sort of staple within those movies. Especially in this movie. All right. Well, moving along, we'll go into people we may know within the film itself. So we're going to start with Jayme.
Starring Bruce Campbell, who before this played Ash in Evil Dead 1 and 2 and Maniac Cop 1 and 2.
And it was a ton of roles. Obviously, there's more Hercules in the Legendary Journeys, Xena, the Warrior Princess as Autolycus,
Burn Notice,
Briscoe County Jr. There are so many. He's a staple within anything. Maniac Cop, Darkman, a whole bunch of things that he's been
and you
in.
know
that
him
we
in
know.
his chin once you see him.
And
Yeah, if chins could
cameos
kill.
and anything Sam Raimi, including I saw the upcoming Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. He's listed for that, so he's probably going to have a cameo somewhere.
Yep. Yeah, typical in a Raimi film, especially Spider-Man. He's been in all three, and all those panelers out there for Panels to Pixels will know that Bruce Campbell actually does cameo in every Sam Raimi film that he does, except for one. There's only one. And if anybody could guess that, I will give them a prize. Next up, Damian?
Okay, Embeth Davidtz. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. She plays Sheila
Davidtz or
Davidtz. I'm sorry.
Davidtz?
She plays Sheila.
Yeah.
Nothing much before, but afterwards she appeared in movies such as Murder in the First, Bicentennial Man, 13 Ghosts, Schindler's List. She was Mary Parker in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, which was not the Sam Raimi films. She has done a lot of TV as well, such series like Mad Men, Californication, and Ray Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
And since we're all fans, at least all the three of us are, I don't know about all the listeners, but I thought it was notable to put down that she is cast in the first 3 episodes of Tales of the Walking Dead, which should be out this summer.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yes.
That's exciting.
She has that upcoming. So she's not listed as any particular character. So we'll have to see what those 3 episodes are about and who she plays.
Wow, that'd be great because, and it's funny too because Bruce Campbell was actually in a Spider-Man film, which we just discussed. But she was also Mary Parker, who was Peter Parker's mother in The Amazing Spider-Man. I forgot about that. That's pretty cool. So there's a whole Marvel, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead connection going on. I like this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And sorry, Bruce Willis, if I mention your name. Well, next up, Bridget Fonda, who played Linda. She was in Singles, which I loved because it was the grunge era of movies. Single White Female. Yes, I remember that film as well, too. And Doc Hollywood. Afterwards, she was in Lake Placid, which I loved. They covered that on Run for Your Lives on the Paracore Entertainment Network, which was amazing and fun to listen to. And Point of No Return, which was really cool because she played a badass in that. She retired from acting after 2002, which is very true, but she is involved with a lot of things out there that benefit other people. So check those out.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah. Jayme?
Marcus Gilbert, who played Lord Arthur, was mainly a television actor. You may have seen him in 1989 on Doctor Who as he played Anselin in several episodes. He was Tom Ask in Rambo 3 as well.
Oh, wow, really? I gotta go look back at Rambo 3.
I never saw Rambo 3.
Really?
I never saw Rambo 2. I watched the first Rambo.
Oh, wow, that's it. You gotta watch the
it.
3 other movies that came out. Come on, Damien.
Oh, gosh.
Do you really?
Yeah,
No, actually,
really.
there were 4 more. Sorry.
Oh, gosh. And Sly was in all of them?
Oh, yeah.
Or did somebody take over?
No,
by the
nobody
fifth
took
one?
over. It was all Sly.
Okay.
All right. Well,
So I'm up.
Yep.
Okay. Ted Bramy, who played the Cowardly Warrior, and he was also the other employee at S-Mart in this as well. He was a regular in Sequest 2032, where he played Lieutenant Junior Grade Timothy O'Neill. Other than that, he had many other appearances in movies, bit roles, and many of them were, of course, Sam Raimi's other works like Darkman and Spider-Man 2. I know I recognized him from Spider-Man 2 as well. I don't know if Mark knows him from significant roles anywhere else.
oh, I do. A lot.
Okay,
Ash versus
go
the Evil
ahead.
Dead. He was definitely in Hercules and Xena. I'm forgetting the name. Joxer. That's what it was. Joxer the Mighty. And he was kind of a jokingly character within that series. He was also in Evil Dead 2, if you remember. He played
Yes.
the mother or whatever it was, hag in the
Oh, yeah.
basement.
Yeah, I didn't specifically list that, but I figure pretty much anything Sam Raimi, he made an appearance
Oh,
in.
yeah. Well, it's
But
his
yes,
brother.
he was in when Jayme and I covered Evil Dead 1 and 2. Actually, and I think he might have been one of the voices of the Hand.
Oh, yes.
I think several people voiced
Yes.
the Hand and maneuvered the Hand,
Mhm.
including our favorite special effects artist, Greg Nicotero, or one of our favorites. I know Mark has a bunch.
Oh, I have a
but
ton.
Greg Nicotero. But yeah, so I know, Ted was definitely in those. Sorry, I didn't list them.
It's fine. You took charge and put everything in here that I didn't really. I've ignored this for months, so it's pretty funny. But I enjoy the fact that you actually went forth and put a lot of that stuff in there. It's pretty cool, though. You know, Ted's been around, and I think he's not only is Bruce is Sam's punching buddy or somebody to punch around with. I think it's Ted too. So I think Ted is his brother that he could knock around a few times and slap around. He's the Shemp. And sorry if I called you Shemp again, Ted.
Fake Shemp. But yeah, that must have been a blast when they did the first Evil Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple of college guys having fun making movies.
Well, next up, this is an Adrenaline Cinema podcast history person here. This Miss Patricia Tallman, who plays the horror hag as as the special effects guru himself, Mr. Nicotero would say. You put her down as the possessed witch, but I know, you put her as you know her from Star Trek The Next Generation, Damian, which I do believe so, same here. And the remake of Night of the Living Dead from 1990 that's, of all things, Tom Savini had directed.
Yeah.
And
gosh, I love that so much.
And plucked her out. And there's a whole history about how Miss Tallman actually got into film, and her first film, it was something that I was like basically covering when I interviewed her, which was for Night Riders. And she was plucked out of Carnegie Mellon University in Pennsylvania by Tom to be in that particular movie. And then she became Barbara from Night of the Living Dead, 1990, which was amazing. And you should all check out the interview because it's an amazing interview. She's so great. I actually reached out to her today. She sold her house, sold a lot of her belongings. She has some stuff in storage, like a lot of the collector stuff. She still does B5 events. So those of you, we will send links in our podcast notes so you could actually track her down. She has a Patreon. She does the B5 events monthly, regardless of her moving around with her new husband. So she just got married, which is amazing. So we'll put all that information in the notes for the podcast. So check that out. I'm asking Patty to come back eventually to do, hopefully we could get that Night Riders thing going. Hopefully I couldn't do it on the 50th anniversary, but hopefully 50th? No, it's not on the 50th. It's the 40th. Sorry. So it'll be the 41st anniversary. I'm not that old.
Don't make us older than we are.
Exactly right. So I'm going to be working with that with Mr. Savini himself, as well as an interview with Mr. Savini, as well as Greg Nicotero. So I have a lot of things in the works in the process, but I plan on doing, and that's a promise, to get that Night Riders reunion, podcast going on here.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Really great.
Next up.
Bill Moseley played the Deadite Captain. He has a huge IMDb credit list with dozens in the horror genre, like House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, Night of the Living Dead, and the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All movies which you should go watch amazing. If you haven't seen it already.
And he plays Barbara's or Patricia's brother in Night of the Living Dead remake in the 90s too. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
That's cool.
You know what? I saw it, but when I saw the name, I think his name was Johnny, maybe.
Yeah.
I thought as the younger, there's that young couple that's in the house.
Oh, yeah.
That end up going to get the gas. Well, in the original, they go get the gas. I can't remember if in the remake they go get the gas as well.
Yeah.
The same. Okay. I thought that was Johnny. I didn't know Johnny was her. I forgot Johnny was her brother. He doesn't have much screen time.
No, he doesn't. He gets his head hit on a cemetery stone. So, yeah. Last one.
Okay, last one.
He's kind of a jerk anyway.
Okay, last one here. Richard Grove played Duke Henry the Red. Most popular film appearances were Point Break, Extreme Justice, and Money Train. And most recently, I noticed he was the voice of Joris Saboth in the TV series Heir to the Empire, which was a Star Wars TV series, I imagine, animated if he was a voice. I'm not too familiar with that. I don't know where that was playing. But that was his most credit. Yeah. So I don't know if you knew him from anywhere else, Mark, but that was just kind of his most popular hits. I don't remember him in Point Break.
Neither
his name was Colin. I know you covered that.
I covered it with Wendy, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorites. Maybe he was just some random surfer. No offense if you're listening, sir.
If not, he can send hate mail our way. It's fine. I'll play it.
Yeah, but I think he played Colin or something like that. But
awesome.
Cullen. Maybe that was one of the other police officers.
Possibly. All right, well, on to general thoughts of the movie or first impressions or memories that you have of the film. So, Damian, why don't you start us off?
Sure, I will certainly do that. I think overall thoughts, I think it's a really fun movie. First time I saw it was in the 90s. Don't know if I rented it or saw it on television first. I mean, that's probably a matter of a few years because I know it aired on TV quite a bit once it became available. But so it was the first one I saw without even seeing the Evil Dead movies because I was probably about 15, 16 around that time, maybe 17 by the time I saw it. I'm not too sure. We're talking early, getting into the mid 90s. So I appreciated it for a standalone movie without having to see the Evil Dead movies. So this time it was kind of interesting watching the Evil Dead movies over the last 6 months, and getting into that whole universe. And I know the connection now to the Evil Dead, but I don't think it's necessary to actually have a connection. I mean, they give you that brief synopsis, if you will, or look back
Mhm.
to Evil Dead 2, I guess you would say, because they kind of ignore Evil Dead 1 in a way, because they didn't have the rights to it.
Yeah.
But but they kind of just give you, hey, this is how we got here. So I think that catches you up enough. So I imagine when I was younger, I was okay with that. You know, it was fine. Great as a standalone movie, but it's a lot of fun, a lot of action. Really, compared to the other two movies, hardly any gore whatsoever, at least in the version I saw. You guys might speak differently if you saw other versions, but so I don't know if it was meant that way, because I know after this, you know, we got into the whole Ash versus Evil Dead universe, and Ash kind of became a superhero, if you will. At least that's what I keep calling him, Ash the superhero, but he's just a human, you know. But no, I mean, I think it's awesome. I loved it then. I loved rewatching it now. It was funny. The animation was 80s, 90s, early 90s animation.
Yep.
The stop motion and the puppets and everything, but I was fine with it. I really enjoyed it.
When we come to the end of the particular podcast, what we'll talk about is documentaries, because it's an amazing documentary that everybody should watch. Because it really depicts everything that went on during the filming of this particular movie that I love. And that you have to watch, because you get stories from Greg Nicotero, how K&B had to deal with everything, how it was a completely different world for them because they went to a different state, was very different in its time on as far as racial relations and everything, and the heat and makeup and dealing with the process of dealing with this particular movie. I think it also coincides with Evil Dead 2 as well. So, yeah.
Cool.
Jamie?
This is my favorite of the original three. I mean, it's fun. I feel like Sam Raimi and Bruce both figured out exactly what they wanted to do with the story, and it shows. Because the first, you know, Evil Dead 1, you can definitely tell that they're new at making movies. And Evil Dead 2 was not the movie that they intended to make when they first started to make it. They wanted to make this movie. And that kind of shows in Evil Dead 2. And this one,
they found their footing within the actual. Yeah.
They found their footing. It's what they wanted. It shows that they know, you know, this is exactly what they wanted. It done well throughout, and it's fun and funny, and, you know, has some scary moments, but I wouldn't necessarily put it in the horror genre if there weren't, you know, skulls and possession.
I think Sam was going for the idea of shock horror with Three Stooges humor and doing slapstick comedy constantly through it, like Crime Wave, or, you know, even in Darkman had it at certain points, if you remember it. I think that was their way of feeling it out and getting to where he could do comedy, horror, action, and all that good stuff. All his friends, because Sam always gets his friends involved. And yeah, I agree with you. And like you with mine, it's one of my favorites of the series as well. This, then it would have to be Evil Dead, and then Evil Dead 2. But honestly, as a whole, all of them are great in my opinion. And I just remember the hype of this movie while going to trade school, while working for my family's business, as well as playing in a heavy metal band, or actually 2 metal bands at the time. And I was working nonstop. But I had already seen Evil Dead 2 from, you know, video rentals. And when I was going to trade school and I was coming back, I would see the poster in the subways, and I would know exactly what it was. And the girl I was going out with at the time said to me, "We're not going to see that."
Oh.
Yes.
She's not the right girl for you.
Exactly. Well, hence why I'm single still. So anyhow, so it was on the NNR train in New York City too, which is fine. It was on my way to the Center for the Media Arts up in on Broadway and 26th Street, which is pretty funny. So, and I just had to laugh when she said, "You can't watch that." You know, the only time I was actually able to see it was on VHS one night, and it was a Blockbuster rental at one point. So I finally got to sit down and watch this movie, and it was everything I looked forward to because I anticipated watching this movie. And now I feel like, you know, this is my favorite of the Sam Raimi trilogy for Evil Dead because it combines a lot of the fantasy, horror, and humor element all in one. And where else can you get that? And Bruce really battled himself. And after hearing all the stories from Bruce himself, reading his books, which I have all of them, by the way, and he is an amazing person to talk to personally, too, if you get to meet him. And he will tell you flat out. And he really got hurt on this show. And a little side note before we get into anything more in this movie, he had an incident where he met his wife, and she was part of, I think she was costume design. And he got hurt on set. He had to call her because they were engaged. He got his chin cut by a shield or something. And they couldn't tell which wound was which.
Because of the makeup.
The makeup was so good from Greg Nicotero and K&B. And he had to tell them, no, it's this one. But we think it's this one. Pointing to the other side. No, it's this one. So that's why he's got a scar on his chin, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. If you watched Burn Notice years after, you'll see a big scar on his chin. That's what that's from. And you can read that in the book, too, by the way. If Chins Could Kill. Which is the book that you guys neglected
I know.
when you covered Evil Dead 2.
Oh, you're right. We
I
did forget about that one.
And a little side note, too, about that. I actually got him to sign that book during his book tour in New York City.
Oh, nice.
When I saw
cool.
him. I got to spend a good 10 minutes talking to him back then. And he, Damian, you and I weren't able to get to meet him on Fandemic Tour. No, I tried, but the line at that point was so long. And the one thing I regretted, because Jayme, you're going to hate me, I have all the women from the original Evil Dead sign that limited edition Evil Dead book. What was it, foam or latex?
Yeah, I have that book.
I have it.
I have
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah, I had them sign it. I have 2 copies. I could have brought one with me to Atlanta. I didn't bring it. I could have had Bruce sign it and complete all the autographs on it.
Oh, that would have been cool.
All the women had signed it. I would never get the other guy, but because he doesn't do any cons. But oh man, but I forgot it, and I was like, when I got back, I'm like, I forgot you. I thought that was pretty cool. I wish I had brought it, but this falls upon one of those movies I think we all love. And with that, we're going to move into our favorite moments within the movie itself, and we're going to alternate. So, Jayme, I'm going to start with you, Damian, and then myself. So, Jayme, what is one of your favorite moments?
I actually love the beginning. That recap was absolutely perfect. I don't know why Damian and I needed to do 2-hour-ish long podcasts on the other 2 movies, because apparently you can tell the whole story in 5 minutes. But it's the beginning. It just sets you up for the way the movie is going to be. Like if you watch the opening scene, you're like, okay, I'm going to like this or I'm not. I love that Linda is different in every single movie. Like they keep that consistent.
Third Linda.
Yeah.
It's weird because she's a popular Linda too.
Yeah. This one everybody knows. But you know, when he's doing the recap and he's cutting off his hand and laughing maniacally, and then when he's falling through the time tunnel, just going whoa, 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 and it just keeps going like 20 times. You're like, oh, that's what this movie's going to be about.
Yeah, you get it. It's like a time portal thing, and yeah. But you get right at the beginning, you're like, okay, this is what I'm getting into. It's not pulling any punches.
It didn't exactly go along with what they did at the end of Evil Dead 2. Because he went there.
No.
That was just the one thing that stuck out. Not to nitpick, because it is a good movie, but still, they went in a different direction for plot. I understand that, but just that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, hey, wait a minute. He killed a Deadite first thing, and they started chanting for him. This is not how it's supposed to be, but that's fine. I just went along with it.
Well, this was years later.
Yeah, I know. It's years later. It's like, let's go this direction. No one will remember what we did at the end of that one.
Yeah, we're doing Hercules and Xena right now, so we'll factor into that. Jayme, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, it's not like nobody had access to Evil Dead 2 to figure out the ending and see
True.
it.
Right.
True.
We're
We're up to me, huh?
Is it? Well, I didn't go yet. Am I supposed to
Oh,
go?
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm too. I thought you
Yeah,
said
you're
me.
supposed to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right after that, because after they took him away, he goes to the pit, and I love that because that's the first suspenseful moment in the movie. I mean, first of all, when one of what's his name? Almost called him Richard, but that's the actor's name. Henry the Red. One of his men gets into the pit,
Yeah.
so we get to see, okay, what happens when you go into the pit, and we get that
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 was
shower
gory.
of blood, which was a nice callback to number 2. I can't remember if we had a
Yes.
shower of blood in number 1. Jayme would know. Well, both of you would know. I don't know
There's
if we had an
some-
actual
yeah, there was
shower.
some.
I just remembered when the guy died.
Was it the
The
whole
one
cabin?
What's that?
The whole cabin wasn't.
Oh, there
that
was a bunch of shower
scene too, or
scenes in
was
number 2. I'm just trying.
Oh,
I said
forget.
this was a
And
callback
there
to
was-
that, but I can't remember number 1.
There's definitely
Yeah.
one or they were in one, but they
Okay.
weren't quite
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
as bloody
Well, this was
as in
very
2.
reminiscent of when that guy, and I can't remember his name, but he got sucked into the basement towards the end of the movie, and that shower of blood came out at the woman. It was very
Yes.
reminiscent, the same color blood, fruit punch like. But so that gets your attention right away. But no, and then Ash ends up down there, and he ends up fighting, which I didn't know. That's Patricia Tallman, right? That's who.
No, that's not.
Oh, that's not. I thought you called her the evil witch
No, she's the horror hag.
or the horror hag.
Yeah, that one's just like a cellar dweller, as it were.
A cellar dweller. Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
not
what they
Patricia
called it.
Tallman.
No, it's not Patty.
Okay.
She'd hate me if I said it was. Hey, yeah, it was
Okay.
Patty.
Okay. Well, that was you know what? That was my first thought. That
Nah.
was her, but that's not her. But that's okay. So he's fighting that deadite down there and gets rid of her, and then the other one comes out of the wall. And a little cheesy when the wise man throws the chainsaw down. A little cheesy graphic action when he jumps up to get the
Yeah.
chainsaw, but it's still pretty cool because we got the head chopped off, which I think we've had head chops off of all 3 movies, so that had to stay. That had to stay. And then he finally climbs out of the pit, and then defeats the monster later with his boomstick. But no, I just really like that because that was the first suspenseful moment of the movie, and I'm big on action. I always, anytime we do these, I always pick the action sequences. So that's my first scene.
Yeah, I would think that reminded me of gave shades of Excalibur, with him rising up with his arm to get the chainsaw.
All right,
and
all
it
right.
going on, and you hear the thump.
Okay,
And
you
that's
might
when
be
he's able
reaching
to
there,
fight,
but okay,
you know.
All right, I'll go
Would
with
you
you.
say
I'll
that,
go with
Jayme?
you on that.
See, I thought it was Thor and his hammer. That's what it reminded me of.
Okay.
Well, did he feel Thor after that?
It's just nice that we got a decapitation right after. So.
Sorry, bad puns coming. I'm not
Yeah.
Jerry.
And the other thing about that scene is those deadites should all join the Olympic
Yes.
gymnast team.
Yeah, for sure.
They did a lot of dancing and flopping around and
Mhm.
Flipping.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Well, my scene will be actually the scene that Damian actually was referring to with Patty, and that was one of my favorite scenes. It's like he's being pampered at that point because he killed the Deadites. He's got a nice white shirt on. He's eating grapes. People are feeding him grapes. And Beth Davids walks in as her character, and she goes, sir, tries to coerce him to do something. And he's like, blow. She just walks away. But then afterwards, you see the witch's eye turn, and that is Patty. Patty's in that makeup, and she turns, and she they push her right against him, and he punches her, and with the shotgun blast, as Patty, as a stunt woman as she was at the time, I don't think she was pregnant at that time. I think that was on another show, but she will probably yell at me if I got it wrong because I read her book, and I probably forgot. But it's one of those things where they pull you with a cable.
Mhm.
And with the gunshot, she got pulled right against the wall. And it was him with the whole gunshot. And I think he says, get an axe to cut the head off and everything else. But it was action-packed because you had the cauldron spilling, the excitement, and the action within it too. And I really enjoyed that particular scene. Not just because Patty was in it, but it was one of the scenes that I remembered completely from the film. And they called that the horror hag.
Mm-hmm. The horror.
Plus, Ash can just never relax.
Yeah. All right, next up, Jayme.
Leading up to the windmill, the path to the unholy place, and we get the point of view of the evil, which is one of my favorite things about the movies. Like, it's such a hallmark of the Evil Dead movies, just seeing the evil like fly through the woods and down the path, and that part has always been creepy to me because you know it's
right.
Yeah.
Sorry, not to imitate it.
And just the way, but the way, like, you know, the camera swerves and everything, you know, it's before they had drones, so they had to do it with like a legit camera. And it's unnerving because you know something's coming and you see the path of destruction. Like when it goes through trees, you're like, okay, something's coming, something's powerful. And you don't know exactly how far off it is until all of a sudden, boom, there's Ash, like, in the background, and you're coming in at him, and it's just it's
they keep throwing the branches in his face too, and you know that Sam was probably there smacking him in the face with the branch.
And you know, and then Ash finally like runs through the door, and he's holding it back, and he's screaming, and then all of a sudden everything just stops.
He screams wildly too, like he does in Evil Dead too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then it just stops.
Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, the windmill is like, you know, the cabin of medieval times.
Yeah, which I like too.
All right, I got a direct feel like that was a direct callback to number 2.
Yeah,
with that one.
Absolutely.
When it all of a sudden stopped, it was very psychological. Which number 2 was like all psychological. At least the first 40 minutes of it.
Damian?
Okay, we're up to me. Well, all right. It seems like we're going nice and chronological here. Ash in the cemetery after he gets out of there, out of the windmill. Which I know some things happen in the windmill. Maybe Mark will talk about that. But when he gets to the cemetery finally, of course, there's the whole humor that, oh my gosh, there's 3 books. They didn't tell him there was 3 books. So do I pick one? Do I take 3? My first instinct was, of course you take all 3. Why would you just take one? Because say it's the wrong one. But, you know, he opens the pages, gets sucked away, and then you have the whole animation with his face being stretched, and he has even more of a chin. You know, with that, I wonder if that was deliberate to give him an even bigger chin. But then the other book bit his hand, messed with him a little bit, attacked his face. But then he finally got the third one, messed up the words, which we'll talk about later. But then the real humor was when he was trying to get out and all the dead started to rise. And I just enjoyed that because you mentioned, and we talked about it before on our podcast too, you know, how they really kind of were inspired by Three Stooges for some moments. And this movie, I think it was full of it. And this moment was really full of it too, with the arms coming up and, you know, poking him in the eyes, and he was trying to block him with putting the hand up, and then the two would come. I mean, that's total Three Stooges. Even the sound effects were very Three Stooges, like with the skulls knocking and things like that. But no, that's why I like that one, because it was like total Three Stooges moment. And it was just all humor, as things, of course, weren't working out well for Ash, as he thought he did his job. Then he just got tired of it, and he was heading back and said, I held up my part of the bargain. I said the words.
I said them. I didn't say them right.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Most of them?
Mostly.
Yeah, but you can't say an N-word because it sounds wrong if you say, I said the N-word.
I love that when he coughed during it, because, you know, that's a good cover-up. And it almost sounded like he was doing it right. You know? So. That probably wraps up mine there. I just love the humor of the cemetery scene when the army starts to rise there.
Which I'm glad you brought up, too, because you skipped the one scene that I love, which is actually in the windmill, and he's dealing with all the miniature ashes.
That's awesome. I did skip over it. I saw Jamie's first here, and then I was like, what should I go with? And Mark didn't have his loader, and I totally missed over that.
It's hilarious. Great. I love that scene. I'm not even looking at your guys' notes, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind when it comes to a scene that I love, even though it was edited like crazy, because on the uncut version, you get more. So
and
there are several versions.
Seen more. I was surprised when it was only a few minutes. So maybe I've seen the uncut version at some time. Is that what you watched?
I have this movie 5 times. I have it on Apple iTunes, which has a really bad transfer, which is kind of blurry, and you see hairlines, like when on the lens you see hair.
Oh, wow.
And the transfer is terrible from a DVD, which is 720p, people. And then I have the other 4 versions, which is the regular theatrical cut, the director's cut, the extended director's cut, and the missing cuts one. So I have all of them on DVD. And I have Blu-ray as well as the director's cut as well. But we'll go into that when we talk about that. But with this particular scene, they have an extended long scene where Ash is dealing and he feels something, and it's kind of like something is inside of him, and multiple little ashes comes out after he coughs up something, and it goes in his mouth or whatever, and then he pours the hot water in, says, "Have some hot chocolate, little buddy," ha ha ha, and gurgle, 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 and it screams, "Ha ha ha, there, how's that?" And then next thing you know, it's coming out of him, blah, 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 blah. He deals with a whole bunch of small little ashes, but with arms. They actually have their arms. They don't have a chainsaw. They actually have arms and everything and hands. And they're attacking them in different ways. So there's various different versions of that scene of the little ashes attacking him. And then it points out to him going out, and he's crawling because something is inside of him, because he already drank the hot chocolate or whatever it was. And he splits. And it's, "You're good, Ash. I'm evil, Ash." And then you have that whole, it's like, and he just winds up shooting him at the end, or killing him, supposedly, with the shotgun. I'm forgetting the line, pardon me, but he goes, "Good, bad, I'm the one with the shotgun."
Yeah,
You basically got it, yeah.
So, and he does the whole Clint Eastwood thing where it spins around and blows on the shotgun. And it's kind of, there's different versions of that particular scene as well. You could see a whole bunch of them. Now, mind you, yeah, I've seen way too many times, and I can't figure out which one is that particular cut, but I watched the theatrical one recently. But that is my scene overall, is like the events that happened within the windmill scene. So you have to check it out, because all the Three Stooges antics with the fork, him stepping on the fork, him singing London Bridge is falling down, he steps on the fork and goes, "Ah!" And he falls down, and they attack him. They send one guy down into his body. That's how he has to get him out with the hot chocolate. All that good stuff. It's amazing. I just love that scene because the pure comedy of it is what really grasped me within it. And that's why I love it.
I agree. It is so fun and so funny. Definitely slapsticky, Three Stooges, and even cartoony. Just over the top and fantastic.
Jamie, you have another one?
The lead up to the battle scene, I really like, because it's intense. It's when Ash is hyping up the humans, you're like, is anybody going to follow this guy?
No.
And they do. And if you didn't know, the guy who says, "I'll lend you my steel" with the beard is Sam Raimi.
No, really?
I thought that was Ted.
Yep. No, it's Sam.
That was Sam? Okay.
Yep.
"You have my steel," is what he said, I thought. Okay. I thought that was Ted. All right. Good to know.
Nope, that's
awesome.
Sam. And then when it switches to the army, the army of Deadites, they're creepy. Like, if you saw that coming after you, and they've got their musicians with the bone flute. I love the bone musicians. Like, that was so cool. It's creepy. It's intense. Like, it's just really good. Like, you're like, oh, this is going to go down. Yeah. Like, I'm not sure who's got the better thing. And then,
well, especially with the one nude scene that we got out of the whole film. Yeah, in that scene, it's a woman being chained up by a skeleton, and him going, "We got something for you, girly girl." Oh, God. And I'm like, it's kind of misogynistic at the time, but it's humorous. But it's just like, okay, well, they got one nude scene in the whole film, and it's of a woman. Why can't they show Ash's butt cheeks? Just saying.
Because that was the time back then that they...
That's something to ask Bruce Willis. Bruce Campbell. Why do you keep saying Bruce Willis? But we have to ask Bruce Campbell the next time we see him. Hey, why wasn't your butt cheeks exposed? We need to know.
Some of us would have loved to see it.
Gotta get the women's perspective. Or the guys, depending. Yeah, so. Yeah. But, yeah, I agree. Yeah, that lead up was amazing. And they were done mostly with puppets, too. And some stop motion. And which is, from what Patty was saying, they had them all in trenches. And if you look at the documentary, they were all in trenches. So they had to do all that with puppeteering at one point. So, yeah. Damian?
All right. Well, I guess she had the lead up, and I'm going into the final battle. That's mine. Which actually, yeah, I wanted to make note of the skeletons playing the flute and the drums. Marching up to the castle. That probably started it for me. But just the humor behind the little comments of the skeletons, and then when they would charge the castle, and then of course Ash, spent all that time training everybody and making gunpowder just for the big battle, and now he got to use it. So we got to see a bunch of exploding skeletons and the reincarnated evil Ash. His little commentary was like, oh, which I believe that was really Bruce Campbell, correct, as evil Ash. I don't know if he was in the makeup, but he was voicing it, right?
Full makeup.
Was he in full makeup? Okay.
Yes.
Because it sounded like him at
some
times.
points.
Not every time. I don't know if it sounded like him every time.
Bill Moseley was stepped in on occasion, but he was in the makeup at certain points. I was, from what I have seen and read.
Okay, because there are times it definitely sounded like him, but no, when he finally got in the castle to get the book, and then there was the whole fight scene, and we saw the car. They put the car to good use again, I guess.
That car was awesome.
With the propeller on the front, chopping skeletons left and right. And I just loved before each skeleton died, they gave just this little wimpy, it was just so funny. It was just so much humor. And that's why like my overall thoughts of this was, when I watched this as a standalone movie as a teenager, I was like, this is so funny. I mean, it was probably the trailer that got me, seeing that kind of stuff. Like, this is going to be a funny movie, not even knowing the past about the Evil Dead. But no, it was just just so good, and the action and the castles. And then you had Henry, right? Henry the Red.
Yeah.
Henry the Red, when all seemed lost and all of Arthur's men were getting killed, Henry the Red came in, and that gave them the little bit of reinforcements that they needed to help stop the army. And Ash was fighting evil Ash, burned him up, burned his face up. That was pretty good. Then he came back as a skeleton. I don't know what was better, when he was in the makeup as evil Ash, or when he was the skeleton. When he was the skeleton evil Ash, I'm not too sure what was better. Both looked good.
Yeah.
The effects are really good in this, but just that overall battle. And then they finally won after he blew him up, and they were able to defeat everybody else. So yeah, I guess the whole movie kind of built up to that last final, not the whole movie, but after the cemetery part, the middle of the movie, built up to that final battle. So that'd probably be my last scene there.
And that's where a lot of the gore was, but the gore was against the skeletons, so it didn't feel quite
humorous.
as gory.
It was funny.
Like the skeletons. Well, I mean, so is the gore from the other movies, like the blood spouting all over this, but it wasn't red blood. It was like white powder and stuff that you saw with the skeletons. So it was there. It was just different than you were used to seeing. Because they'd knock a head off and it goes spinning and all this white stuff goes flying out. So instead of red blood, they made it white. And I read something at some point in time that they were fighting an NC-17 rating to get it to R. And they're saying because of the violence, they're like, guys, it's violence against skeletons.
That's literally what they stated to the ratings board too. It's like, we're battling skeletons. They're dead already. What the hell?
Right.
And I heard about that too, because it actually said, the poster I saw in the subway actually said NC-17 on it. It was before it came out months later. And when Dawn and I were looking at it from the subway, she goes, we're not going to see that. Come on. But I have to agree that final battle scene, especially with Ash versus Evil Ash, and it was kind of that Errol Flynn kind of like fight with the swords. And that's what I liked. And it kind of gave me, of all things, a Willow aspect with Mad Mardigan on the castle and battling with the sword too. So it kind of gave that medieval aspect. You did have a lot of chaos going around. In Willow, they had the big 3-headed dragon thing firing, and then you got all the orcs or ogres that are going around, crawling around, attacking people. In this case, it was all skeletons. You got regular people. To me, it gave me that whole medieval vibe, or that fantasy vibe. So that's why I love this too, because it kind of meshed both the horror and the fantasy realm in it and give us that action. And the humor, too. So it gave us a mix of everything. That's really what it boiled down to. But it was that last scene at the very end when he's in S-Mart and he's telling Ted Raimi about his story. And Ted's like, nodding, uh-huh, yeah, uh-huh. And then he talks to this girl. She's pretty. And next thing you know, a deadite comes in. He has to eliminate her. And I forget what he said. It's something like it's like in housewares or something. And then he puts the thing back and he saves the girl and he's the hero. I thought that was pretty cool. And the funny thing is the actress that plays the woman that he saves in S-Mart actually is in The Wedding Singer. She plays the girlfriend or the ex-girlfriend that the wedding singer was supposed to marry.
That's where I knew her from.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, she looks so familiar.
Yeah. I forgot the actress's name, but I remembered it because the way her nose was. But in Army of Darkness, her nose doesn't look as crooked. I'm like, wait a minute, that looks familiar. It was years apart within like a couple of years. So you knew she filmed them within that time. So I realized it and I was like, holy crap, that's her.
Good eye. Yeah, that was like, oh, who is she? And I forgot to look it up. So thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that S-Mart scene.
Yeah. Well, it leads us to where Ash was in Ash versus the Evil Dead because they literally took it off where he left off. But unfortunately, they didn't have the rights to Army of Darkness when they did Ash versus the Evil Dead. So they had to name it something else, but it still had the same clout and people already knew who were fans.
Okay.
It's like anybody who goes to a Kevin Smith movie and they take away Quick Stop, we all know where the hell they are.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? All right. So I think we covered the movie completely in like perfect scenes that we all loved.
Yeah.
So far. And here we are on our way to quotes. So Jayme, do you want to start us off with your quotes?
Sure. I can do quotes. Start right off with when he's talking to Henry the Red. Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. And Jack left town.
That's all.
I use that line a lot too, by the way.
I haven't used it in a while, but I definitely use hello, Mr. Fancy Pants a lot.
Yep, that is true. That's a good one though. Damian?
Okay. Well, Mark talked about the scene where he was being fed by grapes or fed by women, beautiful women, eating grapes, drinking, and Sheila comes up to him. And he says, at first you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me. And then, like Mark said, he goes, blow. Ash in all his arrogance for the first time in the movie.
Yep. It's so the way the character is. It is exactly who the character is. After that, though, leads into mine. Yo, she bitch, let's go. And that's after the horror hag turns into what she is, and Patty actually has to get shot and pulled back against the wall with a big metal harness. Jayme, you have another one?
Yeah. Oh, you guys skipped this one, so I'm going with this one.
Go.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. This is my boomstick. And then he goes on to the whole thing about it, and then shop smart, shop S-Mart.
You can find this in the hardware
All right.
aisle.
Won't steal.
$109.90. Retails at $109.95.
You gotta do the whole line.
We can
It wasn't
visit
take
together.
up that much time.
Yeah, it's fine. You made up for it.
How about I want to call her. I want to call her Zombie Sheila, but I guess she's Witch Sheila or Half Dead Sheila. After we see that evil Ash has turned her into a witch or partially undead, whatever we want to call her. She goes, "I may be bad, but I feel good." And then, of course, all the skeletons are like hooting and hollering. And they're like, "Yeah, there she is." Woo. A sight for sore bones, I think one of them said.
Oh, it's a sight for sore bones.
Yeah.
Like that. Kind of like Irish accent, too, of all things.
Yeah.
My next one would be Ash saying to Sheila, because she walks in and she's asking him questions while he's in the barn. And the first thing he says to her is like, "Shut the door. We're not in a barn." "Oh, we're in a barn." And then after that, he just goes in and she's touching everything and he goes, "Don't touch that, please. Your primitive intellect wouldn't understand alloys and compositions and things with molecular structures," which basically shows his intellect and IQ.
Going into the final battle, and the Deadites start screaming, "Death to the mortals!" Because how are you going to kill
Exactly, true.
non-mortals?
Yeah, you gonna burn them? Oh, we're burning up.
Oh, I actually thought
Yeah.
I don't have this down, but it kind of goes. I thought of another one that goes right with that. So I'll go ahead and say it. That when they're charging the castle and all the skeletons go in, they go, "Women and children first." Like that's what they're going for. Normally, that's what you say. You know, how are we going to evacuate? Women and children first. But no, the skeletons are going. The Deadites are going for women and children.
Yeah,
first,
to kill them first.
Okay.
They have to prove how evil
Exactly.
they are.
They don't
that
care.
shows you.
We're gonna say bones and pinky toes first. I don't know.
That's a good one. That's a really good one, though.
I guess I'm next up. So that would be Ash's great speech to motivate the people to help. And Arthur goes, "Are all men from the future loud-mouthed braggarts?" And Ash goes, "No, just me, baby. Just me." Jayme, you have another one? I'm sure there's a ton of classics in here that we've overlooked.
Well, I'll go with the classic then. At the very end, "I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul."
That's from all Evil Dead movies.
Callback. There's a callback.
Yes!
They got to put that in there.
All of them.
Am I allowed to drop the F-bomb on Adrenaline? I don't know if you're explicit or not. You
Yeah,
can
go
mute
ahead.
it out if you want. I don't know. I think
No,
it's
no,
the
go
only
ahead.
time we've used it. And actually, in the version I saw, this is the only time it's used in the movie, which I'm surprised. I think by today's standards, that movie would be PG-13. But it's when Ash is coming back from the cemetery with the Necronomicon and everyone's like congratulating him. "The Chosen One's back. The Chosen." He's like, "Yeah, great. Yeah, great. Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, great." And he's, "Get the fuck out of my face."
It's like,
Get the fuck out of my talks to when he's almost at the water. I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, that's the first F-bomb he dropped in this whole movie, I think.
Yep.
So probably what made it,
Very
probably
true.
what part of it what made it the R rating, but at least back then, now it'd just be PG-13 if that's the only one. But
Yeah, because they only do one in a PG-13 film, and an R-rated film, they could do it all they want.
But I just thought that was funny how they snuck that in there.
All right, well, I'll give the next one that everybody goes to. It's when he grabs Sheila as she's walking out after she smacks him and goes, "Give me sugar, baby."
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and then evil Ash
And he
said,
gives her a
evil
kiss.
Ash said that too.
Yep.
Which I believe at that
Yeah, but
point
that-
that was
yeah.
Bruce Campbell because it sounded like him saying it again. I think.
Yeah, it's
Whether
funny
he's-
too because it's the most common thing that he has to autograph on anything. "Give me sugar, baby," or "Jayme,"
Hail to the king, baby.
or
Groovy.
there you go.
Oh, groovy. Okay. Gosh, yeah, we.
We got a groovy in this, and that was something
Mhm.
in the remake that they actually had him do of Evil Dead at the very end.
Oh, really?
If
Okay.
anybody actually lasted till the end
I
of the
didn't
credits.
see. I didn't
talk
see the
about that
remake.
later.
You guys are gonna have to cover that on here.
Oh, please.
You have to. You have to.
We got to. Well,
Which
we're already
means
covering
you're gonna have
Friday
to
the
join us and
13th.
you have to watch it.
well, all right. Well,
We're covering the remainder of Friday the 13th franchise, okay?
Wait, are we doing the remainder? I thought we were just doing X.
You tell me. I still prefer to do part 4, 5, 6, and 7.
he has my blessing. I handed that off. We're doing number 3 next month, and then I'm willing to pass it off to Mark.
Yeah, we can do part 4.
Even though I love working with you,
If
Jamie, but we got a bunch of other movies we can do.
Yeah,
80s,
exactly.
80s
Right?
horror is
Yeah, we need to do
nonstop,
more
but I can
Friday the
hand over
13th.
Friday the 13th to Mark.
Yeah, it's fine because I know Jamie loves the series too as much as I do. So.
Yeah,
I do
oh my
love the
gosh,
series.
love is an
I love
understatement.
Almost all it. I love 80s horror, so it's fine.
Same here.
And I love some 80s not horror, too. It's just I seem to only podcast on horror movies. And Christmas movies.
All right. Well, we could move into the weird stuff now, which would be interesting facts or unknown facts about the movie Army of Darkness. So, do we want to start with that, or you guys have any more quotes that we should do?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
good
out
on
of
quotes.
so.
All right, so here we go. We're going to move into interesting facts or unknown facts about the movie. So, Damien, you want to start us off with the
Sure,
first one?
absolutely. Number one, the original title was different. Army of Darkness began as a scant 43-page script, which featured Ash, Bruce Campbell, having only one eye. Raimi wanted to name the film Medieval Dead, but Universal declined. When provider Irvin Shapiro came up, producer, it's a provider. When producer Irvin Shapiro came up with Army of Darkness, Raimi initially wanted to use it as a subtitle. Example, Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness. And then we have the title sequence has it as Bruce Campbell versus Army of Darkness.
Yeah, when you watch the beginning, it comes up, and as he's flying through the time tunnel, it says Bruce Campbell versus Army of Darkness.
Oh, I didn't catch
instead
that.
of just Army of Darkness.
I didn't catch that at all. Okay.
Hmm.
Universal objected to that title as well, opting for a standalone title that could instead be enjoyed by viewers unfamiliar with the first two Evil Dead films. Though the film was finally named Army of Darkness, the UK DVD release still carries the subtitle tradition in Army of Darkness, The Medieval Dead. I actually like Medieval Dead myself. I like that.
I like that, too.
I like Medieval Dead.
Yeah, same
I
here.
think it fits.
They need to bring that back.
For sure.
All right, from now on, we're calling it Medieval Dead. That's it.
Well, you
The three
see,
of us.
you do actually see, and if you go to Ren Fairs up by me in Tuxedo, New York, you do see somebody walking around like Ash.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Williams.
that's so cool.
With the chainsaw and everything.
We have a
Time
big Ren
Travelers
Fair that's like a half hour
weekends.
away from me. I should get somebody
Yeah.
to do that. I'm not going to do it, but I should get somebody to do that.
I tried to make Alice Ash for her second Halloween, but she wasn't. I couldn't find a baby chainsaw.
Gotta make one. You made a Jaws replica. You can make a baby chainsaw. Jeez.
Maybe I'll talk Malcolm into it this year.
Oh, he'd be
There
perfect
you go.
for it. He's got to cut his hair out a little bit, though.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I just love his little curls.
Yeah, I know. Next one, Jamie?
Hannibal Lecter accidentally delayed the release of this movie. Filming on Army of Darkness lasted roughly 100 days in the summer of 1991. However, due to a seemingly unrelated dispute between Universal and producer Dino De Laurentiis, the film sat in the vault for well over a year. While Universal took umbrage with Raimi's ending and ultimately re-edited the film prior to its release, causing some delays, the original delay was due to a legal battle over the rights to the character Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs. In the process, some of their joint releases were put on hold until the rights issues were resolved. Universal and De Laurentiis fought for over a year until the dispute was eventually settled. Now, is he related to what's her name? Who's in Ash versus Evil Dead? Because isn't she De
I think
Laurentiis?
that's the daughter that you're thinking about.
I had no idea that there was a family thing between this movie and that.
Yep.
In the show. That's pretty cool. Ben's gonna kill me that I can't remember his name.
That's fine. Was it Dana Di Lorenzo?
Yes, Dana.
Oh,
yes,
you're talking
thank
to
you.
Dana Di Lorenzo. You're thinking.
Oh, Di Lorenzo. That was it.
That's Dana
Never
Di
mind.
Lorenzo. I thought you meant.
I was off.
I thought you meant De Laurentiis. I thought somebody was producing it. No, Dana Di
Nope, I
Lorenzo
was
is just the
Never
actress.
mind.
Yeah, it's fine. But Dana is friends of the Next Level online radio podcast network, so it's pretty cool. Next one would be Ash's chainsaw had a hidden mic in it. Wow, that's interesting. Most films employ a single camera, but Sam Raimi opted to shoot Army of Darkness with multiple cameras running simultaneously. This was done to capture as many wide shots and close-ups as possible without having the film master shots. As much, the boom mic was held at a distance while Bruce Campbell wore wireless microphone transmitters hidden on his person. The mic was hidden in the pull cord of his trusty chainsaw, while the transmitter was concealed inside Ash's shotgun holster. Now that's
Wow.
interesting. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool and
That is
creative.
really cool.
And you could tell I don't really read these before I put things
Okay.
in.
Mhm. Well, that's good. It gets you. It catches you off guard, right? Get your live reaction. All right, so the next one, the falling Oldsmobile totaled a crane. Wow. The 1988 Oldsmobile Delta seen in all of the... Well, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be 78?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a 78.
It
Then
Somebody made a mistake, not me.
That's fun, Mark. Yes, we know it's not you. The 1978 Oldsmobile Delta scene in all of the Evil Dead entries personally belongs to Sam Raimi and appears in every single one of his films. For the scene in which the Oldsmobile falls from the sky, an 80-ton crane was used after a 25-ton crane accidentally crashed over a cliff. Oh my gosh. In the first attempt to film it, the 25-ton crane suffered mechanical failure and fell over the edge of a cliff. Nobody was injured due to the lift operator jumping out of the seat moments before it plummeted. An 80-ton crane was subsequently used to clean up the wreckage of the first crane, as well as to complete the shot as planned. The reshot footage, as well as images from Evil Dead 2, are edited into the scene. Oh, okay. Wow, that's crazy. That car. That's a good car that can wreck a crane. That's a good car. Yeah.
Seriously. There are a trunk full of Easter eggs. This I actually paused on while I was watching the movie this time. Speaking of Raimi's Oldsmobile, a slew of Easter eggs can be found inside the trunk of the vehicle. Many of the items really belong to Raimi himself, and they are not paid product placement. Among the cool things found inside the trunk is an issue of Fangoria magazine, which I was very excited to see, which helped launch Raimi's career by promoting Evil Dead. There is also an issue of Dark Horse Presents the 5th Anniversary Special comic, which was released in April of 1991, and there is a chemistry textbook and a volume on steam power. So I guess Ash was probably going back to school or going to school at the time, so he had some textbooks that came in pretty handy.
Next up, Sam Raimi's family members have cameos. So Army of Darkness was co-written by Sam Raimi's brother Ted, who also happens to play, at minimum, 4 different characters in the film. So Ted plays the frightened warrior desperate to stay alive. I want to stay alive! The eye-patched swordsman, and that was the one that's like, you have my steel. The man who screams, we're gonna die!
See?
Yeah, he's like, he plays a whole bunch of them. You can count on, the man who screams, you can count on my steel. Okay, that's the right one then.
I don't know. That's what this one says, but what I read said that was Sam Raimi, so I don't know. We'll have to check.
You gotta look.
I'll have to go back and watch it.
Or we could just, call Ted himself and say, hey, bro, what's up?
Which one was you? Was it you or your brother?
And one of the store clerk at S-Mart who, Ash bores to death with the story. As for other family members who appear in the film, the fake Shemp characters are played by Bruce Campbell's father, Charlie, and brother Don. Now, that's good. The others are played by fellow horror makers William Lustig and Bernard Rose. Pretty cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
All right. Next one. Filming the pit battle was complex. The iconic pit battle was originally conceived to feature just one deadite monster. Raimi agreed to add the second, dubbed the Pit Bitch, on set after being frightened by one on set. Oh, that's interesting. The battle sequence is comprised of shots taken from 2 different locations. The exterior of the pit was filmed in Polsa Rosa Ranch in Acton, California. Polsa Rosa Ranch in Acton, California. The interior was filmed on a soundstage on the backlot of Intravision Studios in Hollywood. The spikes of the pit walls were made of foam, and the pit cave made from a pool of 2 feet deep. Oh my gosh, a pool 2 feet deep. It's a shame they didn't use real spikes.
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce was down there, let's use real spikes for Bruce. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Who wants spikes? Give him spikes.
Only a 2 foot deep
cool.
pool.
So
They
he
did a
was
lot with
scared by
just 2
deadite,
feet.
so he said, let's throw another one down there. That's pretty cool.
There you go.
Mark alluded to this earlier. Bruce Campbell suffered some injuries. During the scene in which Ash is stoned with rocks, fake rocks were hurled at him. However, to elicit a genuine reaction of pain and annoyance from Ash, Raimi had potatoes thrown at his pal as well. The footage of Bruce's irritation about having a potato thrown at him made the final cut of the film. Campbell also suffered a small facial wound during his climactic sword fight in Arthur's Castle. A pin from his uniform sliced his chin during a stunt, prompting a visit to a local plastic surgeon. The doctor had to have the injury pointed out amid the face full of gory makeup before treating Campbell and sending him back to the set.
That's what I was referencing too. I guess it was a pen. They said it was a shield. I could have remembered that wrong, but it's funny. All right. There are a total of 4 different cuts. All right. So, like I stated, I have 5 versions, one of which is Apple iTunes, and the other 4 are on DVD or Blu-ray. So, Army of Darkness has become notorious for, over the years, for having 4 different versions released to the public. There is the US theatrical edit, the European theatrical version, director's cut, and the US television release. Each version has a different deleted and extended scenes, as well as footage re-record or reordered in the various cuts. The version with most footage woven back into the film happens to be the US TV edit. All 4 versions were compiled into a box set released in the US and Germany. So you could get those on Blu-ray if you want. And have fun watching the movie over and over again.
I do want to see more. We only got an hour and 20 minutes. I need to see more.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last one here, that's my turn, right? The original ending was deemed too dark. As alluded to above, one of the major reasons Universal re-edited the film prior to release was their displeasure over Raimi's original ending. The movie was supposed to end with Ash returning to his normal time, only to wake up hundreds of years later and in a post-apocalyptic England. When the ending was deemed too much of a downer, it was reconceived to feature a supermarket shootout with Ash getting the girl in the end. While both endings were released, the shootout theatrically, the post-apocalypse and the director's cut, the 2015 spin-off series Ash vs. Evil Dead honors both by beginning with Ash still working at retail before building up to the Deadite apocalypse. Okay.
Yeah, like an alternate ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wakes up very Rip Van Winkle, like huge beard. He's covered in rubble and he like kind of has to bring his way out, and then he goes to the edge of the building. He's like, I've slept too long.
Yep.
And you see like just this crumbled London.
Wait, so
like,
is that in the alternate
background.
ending, or is that in Ash vs. Evil Dead?
That's
That's in the alternate
the
ending.
director's cut
Like,
ending, yeah.
I gotta see these.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks like Rip Van Winkle.
You can look it up on YouTube. Like if you just do like
alternate ending.
Army of Darkness London
Oh, well,
ending,
that's
you
the
can see
easy
it.
way to do it. I will do that tonight.
That's the easy way to do it, unless you watch the whole movie and get
Unless
to that
I have
point.
Mark
You're like,
ship me his
"Yay."
versions. Right.
Send you a torrent.
All right. Well, with that, we should move into. Do you guys have any other notes about the movie that you haven't covered or talked about?
I think we hit all mine.
The only other one I would recommend, or notes that I have, would probably be about the different movie games that came out based upon the Evil Dead. They've done a few with PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. They have one, and I believe I have the original PlayStation Evil Dead game for PS1, plus the Evil Dead Regeneration on the original Xbox as well as another one on PS2 that I have for, but I have to search for them. I believe there was an Army of Darkness one, but it was like released in limited release, so it's very hard to come by. You got to look for it. And that's about it. Literally, I just basically spoke about Patty, but I'll talk about, we already spoke that Patty Tallman was the horror hag when Ash, was fed grapes and turned into the hag and got beat up. She also was Laura Dern's stunt double in the original Jurassic Park from 1993, as well as the pretty girl that I remember from George A. Romero's Night Riders, which was her first particular film, which she was plucked out of Carnegie Mellon from by the one and only Tom Savini. And love to you, Patty, and I highly recommend everyone check out b5events.com, which is what she likes to do, which embraces all the fandom to anybody that loves Babylon 5, Star Trek, Next Generation, all that good stuff. It all comes together. It's kind of like an online convention, so check it out. So I'll leave those in the links as well. There are so many cool things there that Trekkers and Babylon 5 fans will love, so check it out. And if you want to subscribe to our Patreon, do so. All the information will be in the comments, obviously, or actually in the show notes below, and I'll pop those in. So right now, we're going to move right along into what was formerly called Guilty Pleasure Movies, but what I like to call movies that we would highly recommend.
Oh.
Well, there's a big difference between guilty pleasure or highly recommend.
Well, somebody was just saying, well, you can't really call it guilty pleasure. And like, you know what? These are movies that we just love, but it might be
How
obscure.
about movies you defend?
That's okay. You could do that. There you go. This is Jamie's
Other people
pulpit
don't
on
like
this.
it. Yeah. Other people don't like it, but you think it's good.
Wow.
There you go.
But you
Okay.
defend it.
All right. We'll start with Jamie since she brought it up.
All right. And this absolutely fits this criteria.
Perfect.
Halloween 3.
Oh, Season of the Witch.
Yeah. Everybody hates that.
Oh,
movie.
they all hate it, but they love the song. Happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween.
Okay. So the way they originally intended the Halloween series was each movie was going to be a different story.
Mhm.
It was going to be an anthology series.
Yeah.
So this totally fit that. And, it's set kind of in the world of Michael Myers. I think the mask shows up somewhere or something.
Yeah.
I forgot what the connection is. Like he's on the news, maybe he's the killer. Or,
No,
I forget now.
It's an advertisement for the movie on a TV.
That's what it was. Yeah. Like I knew there was something like he exists in that world. I knew there was like a little throwback to it, but that was it.
That was it.
But if you're not watching it to look for Michael Myers, it's a pretty decent horror movie.
It is. And
But everybody poops all over it because it's not it's not a Michael Myers.
it didn't have
movie.
Michael Myers
It wasn't
in it.
supposed to be.
Yeah, it was originally, like you said, what it was. The series was supposed to be intended for. Carpenter got roped into the idea of doing Halloween 2, but he didn't really want to. But when they throw money at you, what are you going to do? You're going to say yes. And he got money for it. And then after that, he got executive producer credits, even though he wasn't really much involved, especially with Halloween 3. But I enjoyed the film back in the day for what it was, because it creeped me out with those masks when you had bugs coming out of it.
Yeah,
And
it was bad.
yeah,
Yes.
and now you could actually get those masks, and they're so retro. Those masks are expensive. Sean Clark, who basically handles all the stars that go to these conventions, has like 2 of those original masks in his collection.
Oh, wow.
So Sean is amazing when it comes to that, and he's done Halloween 3 film sites on Horror's Hallowed Grounds, and it's amazing just to check it out. Because you could see the hotel where they stayed, the factory, Grim Life Collective with Jessica and Michael have done it as well out in California. And you could actually see a little symbolisms and stuff like that from Silver Shamrock, from the factory and everything near there. It's one of those movies, I have to defend it myself. And it's one that I like. I don't love it. I will gladly walk around with a Silver Shamrock t-shirt.
Yep.
Just to piss people off during Halloween.
Yep.
And I will walk around in a convention and I'll say, that's not a Halloween movie. I'll say, screw you, it is.
Yep.
So, I applaud you. And you're right. Defending a movie, that's a good idea. Damien, do you have one or 2?
Well, I won't defend this movie since Jamie just said to defend it. I won't, because I will say probably it is a bad movie, but the cast is pretty good, and I like it. I don't know why I like it. It's a bad movie, but I like it. And it was just one of those movies in the late 90s that was on like an HBO free preview, and it'd be on constantly. From 1997, Anaconda.
Oh, I saw that in the theater.
You got
Eric Stoltz.
You got J-Lo, Eric Stoltz, John Voight, Ice Cube, a young
Cube.
Owen Wilson. This was at the point where he was still, a spoiler alert, dying in his movies. He wasn't always the hero.
And his nose wasn't always that crooked.
I can kind of remember, but Danny Trejo actually plays a poacher in this, I see.
Yes, he does.
And now I'm thinking about it, I can picture him in it. But, just that cast alone, it's a really good cast. Yeah, I know the effects are really bad, even for 1997. And I know it spawned a bunch of sequels that were probably even rated worse than this. But, I mean, if, J-Lo, she's easy on the eyes. So you can watch an hour and 40 minutes of Jennifer Lopez, in the Amazon.
Yeah.
Eric Stoltz. I don't know. I hadn't seen Eric Stoltz since the 80s, and all of a sudden he like showed up in this movie. I'm sure he did stuff, but I know I hadn't seen him in anything. So
it was kind of short-lived in the movie. He gets his throat.
I know.
And then he's out for the rest of the film.
He doesn't, he doesn't die, but he doesn't get to continue being the hero. J-Lo gets to be the hero
the rest of the movie,
along with Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
So, and John Voight plays a good bad guy. So, I love it. I just see it was just like I said, it was one of those movies. HBO. Oh, I got HBO for a week. Oh, Anaconda again. Okay, I'll leave it on. That kind of thing. It's good. I can't even get into the sequels. I can't even get into them. I don't even know. There's at least one where there are a ton.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't know if Daphne and Peg are going to do that on Run for Your Lives. But I'll listen to that.
I don't know if they
haven't yet. I'm sure it's on their list, but they have a big list.
I think I mentioned
they have a big list. I know, and it's like I said, it's not a great movie, but it's got a good cast. I like it. That would probably be my
guilty pleasure.
I guess you'd
one
say
that you
guilty
defend?
pleasure / movies
Defend.
that you said that I would recommend. I don't even know if I'd recommend it.
I think stick with guilty
we're going to
pleasure
stick
for that
with
one.
guilty
I think that's the
pleasures.
right title.
I think it was because Jason had brought it up. It's like, well, these aren't guilty pleasures. These are the movies that you love and blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, I got to change that around a little bit.
All right. So,
because a lot of people gave me flack about it. But with, I have
It's your
two.
podcast. Do what you want.
Exactly. I have two, actually, and both include Bruce Campbell. Now, the first one is kind of more nostalgic. It came out when I was in high school. Actually, I was probably a junior at the time when it came out. Not many people remember it. It has a very large man with a bigger jaw than Mr. Bruce Campbell himself. And the movie is called Maniac Cop. But Bruce actually plays a detective within it and is a long mainstay within it and goes into Maniac Cop 2, which follows up the following year. And I think later, 89, they actually did the sequel, or maybe 90. And I really enjoyed the film. A lot of people don't remember it. But it's literally like a zombie cop going around taking vengeance out on people. And it's a horror movie nonetheless. But I had a good time with it. And it was a younger Bruce Campbell at that time. Now, a lot of people don't know it, but I highly recommend it. If you don't know of it, just look it up. It's probably going to be on Amazon Prime sometime during the Halloween season. The next one will probably show up right around November because it came out in December, unfortunately, in 2022. It's called Black Friday with Bruce Campbell himself, with Devin Sawa. And it's how you would work in retail like I do, but I don't work within the store. I work in people's homes. It's literally dealing with the people at the people who work within a retail store during Black Friday, but a zombie outbreak happens. And of course, Bruce Campbell is a manager in it. And it's hilarious.
Oh, that sounds good. I'll have to see that.
Yeah, it's one of those that you have to watch during the holiday season because it's for the holidays and it's like a survival night within, let's say, a Walmart or a Costco or a BJ's or whatever you want to call it.
An S-Mart.
S-Mart, yeah. It kind of just reminded me of that when I first saw it advertised, but yeah, I highly recommend that. So that's another one, and I will defend it because I found it very entertaining. The ending opened itself up for like a sequel too, so hopefully we could get that for next November, even though this was out in 2021, but we only got it in 2022. All right. Well, we didn't get any feedback, but well, obviously we're at that moment in the podcast where can listeners hear you? So, Damian, you want to give us some information?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I have my podcast. I've watched it in 80spodcast.com is where you can go and find me and find out where all you can listen. I cover pretty much any genre movie from the 80s. I've done everything from Chariots of Fire to Evil Dead 2. Jamie's been on quite a bit. Another guest of Mark's here on Adrenaline, Jerry's been on quite a bit. In fact, we have Das Boot is my episode, The Boat, coming out this week from 1981. Awesome. And I just I try to mix it up. I don't try to get stuck in one genre, except for, Halloween. I had Jayme and Jerry on quite a bit doing horror movies. That was like a horror theme month. But other than that, I mean, gosh, I've had Jason from Podcastica on. We did Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Just a bunch of people. I've just had, different guests on, some, personal friends of mine, not within our own little group here. I've had them come on and do movies too. I've covered a TV series, Family Ties, which ran in the 80s too. Thanks. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So my original thought was I was going to be doing TV series more often. But notice I haven't done any since Family Ties. So, but no, there'll be more coming out. It was just a lot more challenging. But no, I've had a lot of fun with it. I have episodes out every 2 weeks ish, sometimes a little longer, depending on schedules. I do have a full-time job, part-time. I'm a part-time podcaster. It's a hobby, but it's fun. Yeah. So Mark knows. Well, Mark actually doing 2 podcasts, so this is his fun one. And panels is his part-time gig, right? So now this, literally. So no, but that's where you can find me watching in the 80s. Oh, on Facebook too, at Watched It in the 80s podcast, and Instagram at Watched It in the 80s. Facebook is the big one. You can find me there. I have a page, and I do all my teaser posts for what I'm doing. And like I said, Jamie's been a guest of mine several times.
Yeah, she's been around. And she started on Panels to Pixels, I believe.
Nice.
And do you want to tell them where you were and what you've done? Obviously, Watch It in the 80s, Panels to Pixels, and you've done some of the bigger ones like Walking Dead cast, right?
Yeah, I did Walking Dead cast, the second to last episode of this season with Rima and Jason, and that was so much fun because I've listened to them forever. And then
so did I with you.
I did Wilhelm with our buddy Ben. And I've done 3 Wilhelms. And then I think next up is probably Watched It in the 80s with Damian. We're going to do Friday the 13th Part 3 and end our Friday the 13th coverage, which was the only one that I requested to do with you because that is 80s horror to me. Friday the 13th Part 3 absolutely is 80s horror. It's cheesy.
Gotta get the glasses too.
Perfect. Perfect 80s horror.
Oh, nice.
Same here.
Yeah. I have the glasses.
Yeah, if you get the DVD, you could actually get it with the old, what was it? Green and
blue and red.
Oh, blue and red. Yeah.
And then after that, Invincible, which is the very first podcast I ever did, when Mark was like, hey, do this with me. I was like, okay. It's coming back in June, so we're going to do Panels to Pixels on that with Invincible. Yep. We'll do the second season, which I'm really excited for. If you haven't watched season 1, go watch it. It's good, not for kids. And then... Yet to be determined. Did Goonies here. Yeah, did Goonies on Adrenaline Cinema. I think we're in the talks to do at least Jason X, if not some other Friday the 13th movies. And then, I mean, there's always horror movies. And Goonies, that's another non-horror movie that I did. And then
exactly.
To be determined, but I am determined to do a podcast on Sandman, the Netflix show. Because
Neil Gaiman.
That is one of my favorite stories ever. So
we talked about it for Panels to Pixels, and I think Jason mentioned it, and I don't know. That was the first time I heard about it tonight, and I'm like, wait a minute, we already talked about this. I said, okay, we'll see where it falls on what particular network it comes on.
Yeah, we still need a release date for it, so we got time.
Exactly. So we'll work that out when it comes, but obviously you'll hear Jayme on Panels to Pixels podcast on the Next Level online podcast radio network, and obviously you could hear her here on occasion when we're going to be covering certain Friday the 13th films. Damian and Watched It in the 80s, and as you already know, you could hear me on Panels to Pixels on the Next Level online podcast radio network. Now that's a mouthful, and you could hear me there, and there's always things that you could see. Obviously I put everything Panels to this particular Facebook page, as well as this to that particular Facebook page as well. So that way it's kind of crossing the streams
did that
in a good way, not like Ghostbusters, which Damian had covered. So with that, obviously if you want to send me feedback, you could easily just submit your theories and feedback to our Facebook group, which would be facebook.com/Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. You could also send me an email, and that would be adrenalinecinema@gmail.com. You could easily put out a texted, worded email, and we will read it online. Or if you want, you could easily just send us an audio feedback. Just record your voice, and we'll play it and pop it right in on the podcast and comment accordingly. And with that, we could be heard on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, TuneIn, Deezer, or whatever podcast player of choice. Obviously, you're listening to one of them now. Obviously, if you're going to be putting in some sort of rating or review, please put it in Apple Podcasts because it seems to be the podcast player of choice for a lot of people. And with that, I just want to thank Jayme and Damian for being on here and choosing this particular film.
Thank you for having us. This has been fun.
It was really fun. So that's our show right now, and I just want to thank all of you for listening. I am Mark.
And I'm Jayme.
Then I'm Damian.
And this was Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. I'll swallow your soul. No, sorry.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to Mama. Me? I'm through running. I say we stay here and fight it out.
Are all men from the future loud-mouthed braggarts?
Nope. Just me, baby. Just me.